Click it. All right, we are recording. This is Burn the Ship. Appreciate you coming out, my friend. As I said, this podcast, our goal is to connect entrepreneurs with professionals that can help you go all in on your business. Our goal is to connect you guys with people that have already walked the walk and talked the talk as far as going all in on their business goes. And it's exciting for us. We've produced more content in the past couple of weeks than we have in a while, and it's been good. I'm excited about it. If you have anybody that you want us to connect with specifically, always let us know. But until then, we're going to keep doing what we're doing. So why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself? Why don't you go ahead and introduce your business? Tell people who you are.
My name's Alan Miller. I run German Ornamental Iron. We specialize in custom wrought iron work. Been doing it in Northwest Georgia. My family has since the 50s, and I'm just the latest one to carry it on.
Sure. And there's not a lot of competition from what I understand.
No, I don't think so.
Right. And so tell me, what does that mean? You do custom wrought iron, so you're doing, staircases and all kinds of different.
Yeah,
What
a lot
are
of
some
my
of the
work
solutions?
focuses on my bread and butter is probably handrails. Then there's a lot of fence and driveway gates and garden gates and spiral staircases and that kind of thing.
A lot of decorative work, really, though, as people want to add something to the kind of the feel of their house.
So my opinion on ironwork is, when it comes to your home, is that it's analogous to jewelry with an outfit, right? So if you have like a postmodern house, you wouldn't want to put Victorian ironwork on it. But if you had like a nice stately home, you wouldn't want to do like cable rails it's got to match. It's got to go with it. Like you wouldn't wear a tiara with a tracksuit.
Right. Hey, Shelly, do me a favor. You see that white knob right under that yellow mic at the top? Turn it about where that green one is beside it.
Sorry,
yeah,
I'm
nice.
a bit soft-spoken.
No, it's good. It's the mic. It's because Jay sits over there, and you met Jay, right?
Yeah.
Jay screams into that mic. I can't make him stop. I don't know why. The headphones are actually to protect my ears from Jay.
Okay.
Jay full blown screams into that. Like, you ever heard like where a mic like peaks, and it's just like, that's
that squeal.
that is that over there. That board is for me to protect myself against Jay doing that to me. So,
Okay.
no, it's not you. I understand that. I understand what you're saying about kind of outfitting it to what matches as far as your house goes. So what do you see like the most? I guess in our area you see a lot of, well, maybe not in our area. You probably don't see a lot of antebellum stuff or anything like that. What is like the most common thing that you see?
In this area, there is actually a very big mix. I mean, there's not really one style that's sort of predominant.
Sure.
But, there's always the old historic districts, and, they tend to get the antique looking stuff.
Sure.
So that's the stuff that I really enjoy doing. I'm not really all that crazy about all the modern looking stuff, but
Sure.
It's part of the business. And
I would imagine that the modern stuff is like a little less complicated.
it is. It's really simple looking and like sort of
kind of
geometric.
plain.
And but those kind of rails are actually probably more frustrating to build than
Really?
the more complicated stuff, because they are so simple that
Right.
you can't, like, everything has to be perfect
Right.
or it's immediately noticeable.
Yeah, that makes sense. Everything's got to be good and square. So do you work like new construction? You're working with people that already own their home, or working with people that are building? Like, how do people usually come to you and say, I want XYZ products?
Both. I mean,
Really?
I get a lot of calls when people are just starting their houses, and it's generally just them talking about what they have in their head, and I tell them, when they need to get me back out there, you need to get this and this done, and then you'll be ready for me. And then there is a lot of, especially in really old homes, the codes at the time, they didn't necessarily have to have rails to be
Sure.
able to move in, and now they do.
Really?
And I get a lot of things that are like they get a letter from their insurance company that says, hey, you got 30 days, 90 days, or whatever to get this and this done, and if you don't, we're canceling your policy. So then we have to take care of all that kind of stuff.
Damn.
Yeah, some people have been living there for 30 years and not had rails on their porch or
Yeah.
whatever. And then, there's the remodels,
Sure.
say somebody had wood rails up or something, and, obviously wood eventually is.
Yeah, it goes way over time. That's cool. Tell me a little bit kind of the story. So we talked about it a little bit on the phone when we first connected, but you said your family's been doing this for like 70, 80 years, right?
Yeah, so I learned from my uncle, and he learned from his dad, who was a German immigrant in the 50s, hence the name German Ornamental Iron. My first experience at the shop was as a little boy in the molding room, right? So, you're a little kid, you can't really be around a lot of stuff, but in the molding room, you had this molding sand, and it had to be like a certain moisture content to be usable. And my first job was to go in there and sort of wet it down and then just take a shovel and turn it over. And I don't know how old I was, but I got paid in candy. I mean, so that was really my first introduction. And, then it ended up being if there was room in the truck and I wasn't in school, I would go out on jobs. And
Nice.
then in high school, started doing it like on a daily basis, and
Sure.
it just sort of went from there.
And I imagine a lot of this, you got like a shop. What kind of equipment? Because in my mind, I'm not exactly sure like what I'm imagining, but I'm imagining a lot of wrought iron and a lot of heat and a lot of maneuvering it around until it looks like you want to look.
Yeah. So, in my shop, there are some very substantial steel tables that I build a lot of my stuff on. You'll see welding machines, you'll see saws, drill presses, forge, anvil, lots of hammers,
Yeah.
All of that kind of stuff.
Sure. Yeah. That's
and a lot
dope.
of things that you would look at and think are just junk, but they're actually jigs to make something that's pretty. But until you see them used, they don't look like anything. Yeah.
Yeah. That's cool. I seen it reminds me a lot. Have you ever seen that show where the people make their own knives and then they like test them against each other?
Forged in Fire.
Yes. Yeah.
There's
it
some,
reminds me a lot
there's
like
some
that.
shared tools in that. Yeah.
Yeah. So as you kind of got into it, you're adding that bag of skills from a very, very early age. What has it been like kind of owning your own business? How long have you been kind of doing your own business by yourself?
So there was kind of a middle ground in about 2020. So I'd been working for my uncle for forever. And he wound up having two shops. So he said, look, I want to do something that's slightly different. I don't really want to do all this handrails and that sort of thing as much. He just wanted to make like garden furniture and, that sort of thing. So he said, why don't you run this building, I'll run this other one. And I called mine German Ornamental Iron, which was the name of his dad's business. So the deal was that he got paid rent and he got a percentage off of my work. And the deal was that we shared an office, right? So as work came in, some
Kinda
went my
divvied it
way,
up,
some went
yeah.
his way, right? And everything was cool for a while because, like, I could do the work. I'd always been the guy in the shop making the stuff. But as far as getting the work, I didn't have that skill set yet. So I was content with it. Well, about a year ago, the work stopped being divvied up, right? So I ended up having to learn to get my own work.
Mm-hmm.
And eventually, it got to the point where it's like, well, no hard feelings or anything, but
I'm not really getting anything out of this anymore.
right, why am
Yeah.
I paying for this? So it was actually just a few weeks ago
Nice.
that I got all my stuff out of the shop and, let him know that I was leaving the shop and went to go set up my own shop and get my own tools and,
Nice.
It was really nerve-wracking.
Sure.
Like in the planning stage, like that I knew this had to happen. But as soon as I did it, like the day I did it, I was like, man, I should have done this earlier.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the work has just been flooding in.
Sure.
And, things have been.
What was that like? Getting used to getting your own work look like? You were reaching out to contractors and builders, or kind of figuring out the marketing side of things.
So I'm not naturally like an extroverted person, right? If I
Sure.
don't have a reason to talk to you, I don't.
Same traffic.
And
Feel that.
oh,
I've been doing this for almost 7 years, and it is
wow.
absolutely learned behavior.
Yeah, it is absolutely.
Like we're 300 of these in.
Mhm.
If you go watch number one, you're like, who is that guy? You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Because we're
sure, yeah.
it's completely different. There's no shot at anybody for that. I tell everybody that they can learn sales or they cannot if they don't want to, because it's absolutely learned behavior.
Yeah, so like even when we were sharing the office and the work was being divvied up, like I would have to go meet people and talk about what they want. And I used to get really nervous to do it. Now I enjoy it. Like it got went from really nervous to it doesn't really bother me to I like it. I like meeting people.
And it's a little different. Your meeting is a little different from people though, because I would imagine I would still be nervous for that, like until I got used to it, because like if I'm pitching you, you know what I mean, or like you're like, hey, talk to me about credit card processing, like I'm gonna sell you like, a $200 credit card machine, like at our most expensive transaction. I would imagine some of the stuff that you do for people's like $15,000, like depending on what they want, depending on where they are at the stage of their house. So like pitching people those big tickets and like, here's all of the things I got to do, and here's all the installation and all of that. Like that's a huge ticket. That's a big chunk out of what people are doing with their houses. So I can imagine I would still be a little nervous about it.
Sometimes like there's a lot of jobs that's they're not big jobs at all. And there's not even really much money to be made.
Sure.
But it's like, your grandmother is coming over for Thanksgiving and she needs a rail to be able to get into your house. And, it's just 2 steps, but she needs it. And, I'm happy to do it. It needs to be done. I don't want somebody getting hurt.
Yeah.
But then there are other things, there was a mansion I did in Calhoun and it had, this huge curved staircase coming down, and he ended up with like $30,000 worth of ironwork. So yeah, there's a wide range there, but what I learned was, you have to have a good product. That's how you continue to get work. But really, if you approach it that you're there to help, like you're not there to sell them something, you're there to help.
Yeah, there to solve a problem.
Yeah, and you're selling yourself really more than anything, because these people are trusting you with.
Yeah, absolutely.
He's got a $2 million home, whatever it is, and I'm going to be in there drilling holes in his floor and all this other kind of thing. And if you can't establish some level of trust, it's not going to happen.
Absolutely.
So,
what was the process of kind of setting your business up like? Did you I'm assuming that you went through that whole process of insuring yourself and getting your logo and all of that stuff. Like what was that process of kind of getting set up once you kind of got on your own? Or I'm assuming maybe most of that was done kind of before you split away from the shop that you were at?
Most of that was done by my wife.
Oh, really?
Bethany, yeah. So
I think that was who I originally met at the Rome Business Group, I think.
So I sort of, try and focus on the work and the customers, and she handles all of that kind of stuff.
Nice.
She, I didn't even have a personal Facebook account up until about a year ago. She made me do that, and she set up one for the business, and she made the website, and she trademarked German Ornamental Iron name, and she called and got the insurance, and I just pay the bills and say, okay.
I imagine she was learning how to do that kind of as she was going too.
She was, yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome. Very, very solution-oriented family.
Well, it was sort of a do it or go get a job somewhere.
Yeah.
So, and once you work for yourself, it's like...
It's hard to not.
Yeah.
It's really hard to not after you've done it for yourself. It really is.
Yeah, because, when you work for yourself, you end up working a lot more, and you wear a lot more hats than you did, in your regular job. But, if I'm working 12, 14 hours a day, nobody's going to stop me from sneaking off to the truck and catching a 30-minute nap.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yep. Yeah, we kind of operate like that here, where like I'm an employee, of my company. I've always been an employee of my company, and they have always taken the stance that the output speaks for itself. You know what I mean?
That's
like
the way I do with people that work for me. Like, I don't care how many breaks you take. I don't care what you're
If you
doing
just
at
do
any
it.
given time.
Yeah, just
At
do
the
it.
end of the day, if what had to be done is done, I'm not gonna say a thing.
Yeah, that's how we are here, and that just that made me be like, yeah, this is the last job I'm ever gonna have in my life.
That's nice.
Just that, like, this is if we were not a company tomorrow, I don't know what it would take for that to happen, but if we were not a company tomorrow, I definitely would not go get a job. Like, I definitely would. I would absolutely bet on myself. Because it's a really cool experience. You know what I mean? Like, taking something that's important to you and making a business out of it, and then it's like growing it is not really like the right word, but like you feed it almost like a baby. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it
like
is definitely a child. Yeah.
And there's always things to do. Like, there's always things to do within your business, whether it's the work and the service that you actually render, or it's something that you need to do on the business front that has to get taken care of. It's not an easy thing, and like you said, you end up working a lot more, and you end up learning how to do stuff you never thought you'd know how to do, or changing the way that you do things, adding things that you do on a daily basis to your agenda that you never thought would be kind of on your plate. But it's a really, really cool thing, and that's kind of why we speak to this audience as well. It's like our industry is completely determined on healthy small businesses, right? If there were no healthy small businesses and nobody were using credit cards or spending money, our industry would be absolutely extinct.
Yeah.
And this is kind of our way to giving back to what small business really is, and kind of helping people tell that story. And it's super, super unique. It's hard to articulate really what it feels like to kind of step away.
And if anybody's thinking about making the plunge, I don't want it to sound like, I've got it all figured out and I did this, and this, and it all worked out. There are a lot of mistakes, along the way.
Oh yeah.
And you learn from them and correct them and go on, and hopefully it didn't cost you too much money, but usually when you make a mistake, it costs you money.
Oh yeah, pretty much exclusively it costs you money in some form or fashion.
Or time.
Yeah, which is
even more.
Money, even more.
Time
money.
is the biggest commodity that you start thinking of when you're working for yourself.
Yeah, 100%. It was strange too, because like on the production side of things, I had to start making those decisions like a business owner as well, because I'm like, it was the first time in my life that I would ever like turn down an opportunity to make money because it costs you so much time. You know what I mean? Like, even if it puts money in your pocket, it costs so much time to do it that it's just not worth it. It's not worth the headache. You know what I mean, it's a very difficult thing to learn how to balance. What would you say that you did really well when you started your business? Was focusing on the work, or was it continuing to add to that skill set? Like, as you started wearing that business owner hat, what was something that you feel like you did really, really well at the beginning?
For me, I think it was just the way I treated my customers, right? So you see a lot of people, like especially in the construction industry, they don't seem to have much respect for somebody else's time, right? I'll be there tomorrow at blah, 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 and then they don't show. You really have to make that a priority.
You hear rampantly too that like nobody ever answers their phone.
Yeah.
I called 100 people in their industry and none of them answered their phone, and that blows me away.
Me too. Yeah.
That blows me away.
And that's one thing that I had heard, and I said, well, I'm not going to do that. I was answering texts for customers last night at
11 o'clock. Yeah.
Well, I think it was 9:15, but you know what I mean. And I don't consider that to be work. Like bending steel, that's work.
Yeah.
Answering a text, not a big deal. I can do that while I'm watching TV.
I agree. I agree. I was on the phone yesterday. I was hanging out with my son whenever I got off work. I think it got to be about 7:30. Jay called me and he said, "You want a free deal?" I said, "Yeah." He said, "Well, you got to call her right now. She's 2 hours behind us." I said, "Okay." I was on the phone with this lady at 8:00, and we're apping her merchant application. So like you just got to do what you got to do, you know what I mean? I think that to sum it up, what you just said, knowing that you got to do what you got to do, and having respect for your customer in a way, knowing that they have to do what they have to do, and they're kind of bending their life around this product too, is super, super important. What would you say that you learned from at the beginning? What was something that didn't go so well that taught you a quick lesson as you were kind of learning to wear that business owner hat?
So one of the mistakes I made early on was trying to prioritize saving money over time, right? So if there was a piece of equipment or some tool that would have made something go
A lot more efficiently.
yeah, and but it cost a couple $1,000 or something, I would just do it the hard way. That's a mistake.
Yeah.
Invest the money. If you're going to be using it long term, just invest the money. You'll be glad you did.
Where do you get your tools from?
All over the place.
Really?
Yeah.
I bet Harbor Freight loves you, huh? Yeah.
No, Harbor Freight tools don't really hold up for me.
I'm telling you, I stand by that. Harbor Freight tools are not that great.
I mean, if you need
They're not
something
that
once,
Yeah, if you need a
fine.
screwdriver for a screw in your wall to hang up a picture at your house, they're okay. But they're like, we work on cars, and they don't do great.
No.
They don't. We buy Husky stuff. Husky replaces their stuff for life. If you break it, we'll send you another one, and I like that. I'm a big fan of it because we break them. Yeah, that's a good point what you bring up. Investing in whatever it is for your business, whether it's a piece of technology or a piece of machinery or a person. A person is capital in your business more than everything for most industries. But invest in that makes your solution in your business a whole lot more scalable than it does on shorting yourself on the resources that you need to grow. You know? So
and the other thing I messed up on was a recent mistake was on marketing, right? So the takeaway from that is if somebody's calling trying to sell you something, just don't do it. Okay, if you need something, do your own research.
Yeah, go find it.
Yeah, go find them. Use somebody local. These big marketing things, it was awful.
Yeah, so you were trying to market to your customers with a marketing agency?
Yeah, it was like they were going to go in and redo the website and, do all this search engine optimization and, all this other kind of stuff. And yeah, no.
That's not something I would recommend for your industry either. Your industry's so specialized.
Yeah,
you know
it
what
is.
I mean?
And they really, despite how much time I spent telling them what I did, when they showed me the prototype, I'm like, this is
not even close.
No.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I feel that too. You have to have a little industry knowledge. You don't have to know everything about every industry to be in that marketing space, but you have to ask the right questions. That is for sure.
Yeah.
People do that a lot where that's not a very uncommon, I don't even know if I would call that a mistake because I feel like, spending the money and having those conversations to learn something about that is a cheap mistake compared to some mistakes. But the marketing world is a weird world, right?
It is, yeah.
Because you have to know how to wear some of those hats in every industry.
Yeah.
And it's hard to learn how to wear those hats in your own industry that you know a lot about. A service that you know a lot about rendering is difficult to realize that you don't know how to do the marketing. You don't know how to do the bookkeeping. You don't know how to do. But then you talk to the marketing people and they don't know how to do it either because they don't know your industry.
Yeah.
And they won't say that. It's
no, of course not.
I understand that. I can relate to that. But that is interesting, my friend. I do want to, after we get off the podcast as well, I wanted to talk to you about a couple of things. I'm in a couple of networking organizations similar to RBG that have some people that can send you some business. No question, have some people that can send you some really, really good business. So remind me to talk to you about that after the fact. But kind of the way that we sum up the podcast here, if you have people that want to buy something from you, if you have people that want to send you some business, you have people that want to bend your ear or anything, how do they find you? How do they get a hold of you?
You can call me direct. I will answer the phone. 706-728-7006. You can go to the website, GermanOrnamentalIron.com, Facebook page, whatever you want to do. I'm pretty easy to get a hold of.
Nice. That is a wonderful answer. And like I said, the title of the podcast is Burn the Ship, right? Our goal is to talk to people. Have you ever heard that illusion, burn the ship?
Yeah.
So that what we want to do is kind of position business like that, where once you kind of commit to going all in on your business, there really is no going back. And we talked about that a little harder earlier. Is once you've been in that business owner seat, it is hard not to be. It's hard to go get a job.
Yeah.
It's a difficult thing to do to go get a job and have a boss, have somebody that can fire you. You know what I mean? It's a difficult thing to do. Why should people seek that experience out? Why should people look that out? And what was it like for you? What were all the emotions like for you when you kind of went all in on your business? And why should other people be looking for that same experience?
I never really went out seeking it. It was, I'm a craftsman who was sort of thrown into it. Like I said, my uncle said, here, you run this, I'll run this. And so I was kind of put in, I guess, a rare position where I was in a halfway point,
Sure.
I was doing it, I was controlling it, but it wasn't really, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. It just wasn't all the way yours.
Right.
You were doing all of the things.
Yeah.
But it wasn't really your thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think you'd be surprised at the amount of people that feel like that, though. I really do, because there's like, I just talked to a couple of gentlemen that own a garage door company.
Yeah.
Both of them were at separate companies. Both of them were the best techs at their company, right? And they were doing everything. They were doing, they were handling the rest of the employees. They were scheduling the jobs. They were selling the work. They were rendering the work. They were going and installing garage doors, fixing garage doors for people. And they realized that, their boss kind of treated them like crap, and they spent so much time doing all of the other things that they might as well own their own business, and it's a little bit different from your exact story. But I think a lot of people kind of back their way into that business owner mindset. You know what I mean? So
it gets to a point rare. Like, at the beginning, so the reason I got as good as I am at my job was, as a teenager, I was asking, how much money can I make doing this?
Mm-hmm.
He said, well, that depends on how good you get. I said, well, I want to be as good as you. He said, well, if you do that, you will have done something.
Yeah.
Okay.
What a good answer.
I'm going to do something. And, I learned everything I could from him. I stayed after work. Anybody who had anything to teach me, I would learn. So I took what he knew. I took what some other people who had come through the shop had to teach me, and then things I figured out on my own. And in the end, I wound up better. And you get to the point where if you want to go any further, you have to burn the ship.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
That's kind of what happened to me.
And then you start adding those different skill sets. We talked about that a little bit yesterday on the podcast. It's like, really, like, once you burn the ship, what happens was kind of like the gist of the podcast, which I thought was a really, really cool take on it. And this guy was like, it was basically like I was learning how to wear a different hat every day.
Yeah.
Like he owns a big fitness franchise, which is, he's very, very sharp business guy. But he was like, I was learning something every single day about business. He was like, I was learning something marketing related. I was learning something booking related. I was learning something, bookkeeping related, just something different every single day. And that, that's kind of what you have to look forward to.
Yeah, you kind of have it in your head in the beginning that, okay, I'm going to keep doing what I've always done, and, I'll get me a place to work and put me a sign up, and that'll be it. Like, no, that is not it at all.
But you don't have to know how to do everything before you do it.
No, you'll figure it out of necessity.
Literally out of necessity, and that sometimes, like, I speak to my personality traits myself in this situation. So I'm not taking a shot at anybody that relates to this, but I would have to learn it out of necessity. Mm-hmm. I'm not the bookkeeping for dummies guy. I'm not reading the whole book. You know what I mean? I'm not marketing for dummies. The book. I have no desire to learn that beyond the desire to build something for myself.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So like once that becomes important to you, you'll start outfitting yourself with the tools to make it happen just off of sheer
and you
willpower.
get used to being uncomfortable, right? So for me, when I'm learning something new, like I have no idea what I'm doing.
Mm-hmm.
It's just really uncomfortable for me, and you just get used to feeling that way, and eventually things, stop being uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And then there's some other things that you just sort of have to get your head around, like Bethany has been on me about making little videos,
Yeah.
while I'm working, right? In my head, like, who cares? I'm just a guy working.
Mm-hmm.
She's like, how much time do you spend on TikTok, seeing how people who do other things
Mm-hmm.
are doing what they do? And it's like, yeah, okay, I guess. So
Yeah.
I got to start doing that kind of thing. And I think that, like, especially like marketing and stuff, like if you're doing like Facebook ads or these sort of things. So I started noticing one of my competitors was basically copying everything we did,
Mm-hmm.
right? So they would just do their version of exactly what we had done.
Yeah.
And ticked my wife off, right? Made her mad. I thought it was great, right?
Yeah.
Because if you're doing
It's the most
anything
sincerest
right,
form of flattery.
that's right. I
Yeah.
thought it was great. So
Yeah,
I think,
imitation is the-
that's sort of some validation for the things you've been doing.
Absolutely. And if they're always one step behind you, that's the way I kind of position it to people. It's like people that are copying you are always one step behind you. People are always going to copy you. People are going to steal your ideas and try to replicate them for themselves. But like, you had the ingenuity to take it this far.
Yeah, and I thought about doing a video that was like had a little stab at the end, not like mean, but like a lighthearted, like, hey, I know what you're doing.
Yeah.
Like
should.
like at the end of it, be like, hey, do you think that guy's gonna copy this one too?
Yeah.
Like, yeah, probably.
Yeah.
But I don't know. We'll see how that goes. Right now,
You should.
I've got to find some time to do that stuff. Right now, I am more busy than I've ever been in my entire life.
It's a good thing.
It is, but that's the downside of making yourself so available to your customers, right? So it's hard to find time to do the work
Sure.
that you have to do.
You'll start investing the same way that you did in your business in those things too. Because like I'm no savant at any of those things. All I do is go research until I find a tool that makes it super, super easy for me.
Yeah.
Right? So like there's an app called Splice that you can download on your phone. If you complete a project, you take a video of about 3 or 4 different angles of that same project. It'll let you put all those videos in there and then cut them up where it looks like it's cutting back and forth like a commercial.
Yeah.
And then it'll set it to some uncopyrighted music, and you have a completely finished TikTok. Like you have a completely finished video that shows off this is XYZ work.
Yeah, I need that.
Because I'm not.
Write that down somewhere.
I am no video. I am not. I have no desire to be. Like, if Burn the Ship podcast tomorrow started producing $1 million a year for me, that is still not enough necessity for me to go and learn all those skills. I would just hire someone.
Yeah.
I would just hire someone. I'll pay the shit out of them to make me never have to go learn those things. You know what I mean?
That's going to be me because I'm even worse, right? I haven't been on a computer since college. You know what I mean?
No, I feel that. Well, this is cool, man. This conversation is cool. Congratulations about
Thank
where
you.
you are right now in your business. I know that it probably feels very freeing. And I have a lot of faith that a lot of cool things are going to happen for you. We'll do this
Thanks,
again
man.
at some point as well,
Sure.
as things continue to progress down the road. Maybe we'll sit back and watch this podcast, and then we'll both laugh about how new we were. We do that a lot. We've people are like, hey, I've been on the podcast before. I'm not sure if you want to have us on there again because we'll be out and about talking about it. And I'm like, I would love that if you haven't been on the podcast in 3 years and you want to come back.
Oh man, I'd hate to see that. I hate seeing videos of myself.
It's such a snapshot of where you are in your life, though. Like it really is. It is for me. It is for me. I go back and watch, like, the first ever podcast that we did was we wanted to do one that was fun to bring it off, right? And so we brought like a brewery and distillery, like a group of people. One of them owned a brewery, one of them owned a distillery, but they're like basically across the road from each other.
Yeah.
Right? So we brought both of them in here, and we drank their liquor and their beer, and we had a good time. You know what I mean? And I look back at that podcast and I go, what were we doing? Like we provided them no value. Like the people that were watching, we just drank beer. We just got a video of them watching us drink beer and try liquor and say whether it was good or not. Like that was it. And now we go here, and I'm like,
well, it's important that you guys take the time to go back and look and say,
yeah,
we
for
could
sure.
have done this better.
And now I see, like, every time I upload one of these videos to YouTube, I can think exactly of the question that somebody is looking for out there in the world that our specific conversation, lends itself to answering. You know what I mean? So, like, it's been a cool thing, man. And we'll do this again. Congratulations again to where
Thank
you
you.
are in your business, because I think some cool stuff's going to happen, and your industry's super unique. So I don't think that once you get that marketing hat licked and you hang it up in your closet and you got it figured out, I do not believe that you'll have any shortage of ability to keep yourself busy. So I think it's going to be cool. I think it's going to be cool. And we'll do this again. So let's burn the ship. Unless you got anything else to say, the floor is yours, my friend.
No, man, I appreciate you.
Yeah, absolutely. Burn the ship. Till next time, guys.